Good morning, folks. Good morning. How many of you are teachers, just to get a sense? Teachers. IT directors? Okay. Administrators, principals, assistant principals? Okay, got it. Okay. Good. I want to talk about the benefits of mobile technologies. I've been working in this field since the Palm Pilot days. I'm a computer science professor at the University of Michigan, and I worked on big machines, artificial intelligence, and one night I had dinner with a friend, and he showed me a Palm Pilot, and me, Mr. Macho, said, "That's not a computer." And in the middle of the sentence, I stopped, because I realized, yes, that's a computer. I can program it. I can make it sing and dance. And I literally stopped everything that I was doing. I called my partner, Kathy Norris. She's at the University of North Texas. I said, we're not doing all that stuff anymore. We are going to do mobile. And from that day, we built a concept mapping program for the Palm Pilots. We built all kinds of software for the Palm Pilots. We had over 100,000 downloads for Palm Pilots. Then we did Pocket PCs, and those are gone, right? Those are good. Thank goodness. And now we're into this next generation of devices, the Androids and the iOSs and what have you. And actually, who the heck knows? So I've been doing this for at least 12 years, and I do absolutely fundamentally believe and now, in the value of it, and now actually we have very hard data. You need data. I've been working with my colleague Kathy in Singapore for 5 years. I'm going there next week. And we go every other month now because there's a elementary school, a primary school, and they want to change. They have very high test scores. I mean, Singapore, for heaven's sakes, the highest test scores in the world. But they realize that their children are not imaginative, entrepreneurial. And they say the way we've been doing to get those high test scores doesn't develop children in the right way. We're changing. And so they want us. We're going over there, and now we're in the 5th year of a scale up that takes time, and this works. And I want to show you some data at the end that says it works. Data says they learn the content, they learn the 21st century skills. What more could you possibly ask? So, here we go. I'm going to talk about the primary benefit of it, of mobile. The first and the primary benefit is this. We know that kids learn by doing. You learn by doing, for heaven's sakes. We all know that, right? And the problem is it's hard to do for teachers in a classroom. To enact a learn-by-doing pedagogy and inquiry pedagogy is hard. It's just hard. Artisan teachers, yes, they can pull it off, no problem. But everyday teachers only work 50 hours a week? No, they can't. So the way mobile works is in the palm of their hands. I got to have a prop. In the palm of their hands, right, they have this. And then the teacher is no longer the mediator, the intermediate, right, mediator of the information. They go directly. And this changes the whole equation in the classroom. And like a tide that raises all the boats, this raises all the boats, all the student achievement. And then I want to talk about some transformations in the school. I only have 15 minutes, so I'm only going to talk about one, which is curriculum, because that's at the core. If you don't change the curriculum, you don't change the pedagogy, you might as well keep your equipment and save your money. And you know that, too. And again, in the Anchow Primary School. We're also working at St. Francis Catholic School in Ann Arbor, and they're changing. Next year, they're making their parents buy the devices. They love what they saw this year. They love what it's doing to the kids, and they're saying, okay, we're going to put it on the shopping list for August, and instead of buying a TI graphing calculator, they're going to buy a tablet. That's the way it's going to work. We're done. That's how fast this is going to go. And it's all because of the kids and seeing the transformation in the classroom. And then talk about a prediction I'm going to make by 2015. Okay. Here's some pictures. On the left is the New York Times, and they have told us over the last year and a half, there's about 8 articles. Matt Richtel, every 2 months, so he writes an article that says, computers are no good for kids. There's no evidence that it works. And you just, oh, come on, Matt, come on. And he did it to me. He called me up, he interviewed me, and I was right on the front page of the business section, and he twisted a quote, and it made it sound like I think computers are no good. And I was livid, absolutely livid. And what are you going to do? Be careful when you talk to these people. I knew his acts. I knew why he was calling me. But I thought, oh, no, I'm naive, totally naive. And he just, oh, it was horrible. And what he says is, and in some sense he said is true, of all the billions of dollars, it hasn't had an impact on student achievement. It hasn't moved the MEP scores. It hasn't moved any test scores. Why? That picture is the key. Every one of you, especially the IT folks, principals, you have one of those, or two of them, or dozens of them. Carts, labs. Where the way we've been using computers is as a supplement to education, right? As an add-on to education. Teachers, take this computer, take this paper and pencil curriculum, and you'll figure it out. Oh, you'll figure it. You'll add a little assignment, you'll add an app or two, and it'll just be fine. Yes, that's right. It does that. But all the data says it does not move student achievement. There is data, and there's a thing called, and this is academics. You don't have to look at it. I'll tell you what it is. It's all these studies on one-to-one laptops, and says, when does one-to-one laptops increase student achievement? It works when you use them as essential tools, not as supplemental. Well, what does it mean to be essential? It means that the kids are using the devices for essentially all the learning activities in the classroom, and they're using them outside of the classroom, 24/7, mobile. Laptops. Laptops are not mobile, they're transportable computers. But indeed, they are using the computers 24/7, and in those classrooms where the curriculum was changed, where the pedagogy was changed, you saw test scores go right through the ceiling. And that's exactly what we're seeing in Singapore. But if you say, oh, well, we're just going to take the computers, we're going to add them to our existing curriculum, and we're just going to, find an app or two, you're not going to see any data. You're not going to see any improvement. You can say, oh, yes, it's going to work in my district. Maybe it will. Go with God, do it. But if you just look at the research, which I've done, which other colleagues have done, it doesn't work. In general, it won't work. If you use it as essential, it will work. Take a look at this classroom. This is the Carpe Diem schools in Arizona. And this is what happens if you take seriously the notion we can use the computers as essential tools. You can sit a kid down 2/3 of the day, put them on headphones, put them in cubicles, and you know what? Test scores go up. They get test scores going up in this school. There's only 4 teachers, and they're not even teachers. They walk around. This is like a converted gym. They walk around and they help the kids. In the afternoon, the kids meet in small groups, because needless to say, some of them have problems, right? And they meet with the kids, and the kids learn. And then if you go, search, I'm telling you, search Carpe Diem, Arizona, and you'll see it. And Arnie Duncan, our Department of Ed, right. He's the head of the Department of Ed, right. He likes this stuff. Why? Costs. But is this going to make a 21st century kid? Test scores, absolutely. If you drill kids, I mean, come on, that's exactly what Singapore does. And that's why test scores go up. You know that. If you drill a kid, their test score will go up. And that's what they have done here. And it's just computer-based, right? And it's adaptive learning, and they just move these kids right through the curriculum. 21st century skills. Do you see any collaboration? Every company that's any company today is knocking down their cubicles. They know this doesn't work, but we're embracing it. I mean, this is unbelievable, right? Do you want your child in something like this? No. You want it differently. So there must be a better way, and the better way is mobile. So here is a quote from John Dewey. Teachers give pupils something to do, not something to learn. And in the doing is of such a nature as to demand thinking. Learning naturally results. That's what good teachers do. They give the kids tasks to do, and in the doing of the tasks, the kids learn. And the doing of the tasks is done on these mobiles. That's why this device helps teachers who may have difficulty doing task-oriented learning, project learning, inquiry learning. If they use the mobile devices, this takes some of the burden off. Not all the burden, some of the burden. And thus the teachers can now do this kind of learn by doing. There's a book called How People Learn, right? This book's about 10 years old now, 15 years old now. And it really just says, they learn like Dewey said. and Dewey didn't, in this particular quote, doesn't make a big deal of conversation. You all know learning is in the conversation. That's why you're here today, to have a conversation. And if you have a conversation, when you walk out after 2-3 hours, you will have learned something. Because learning is in the conversation. Right now, it's a monologue. Find a few good lectures, that's perfectly reasonable. Absolutely. Get you going, get you in a direction. But then the rest of the time, you're talking. And that's what the kids are going to do. And As I said, this kind of teaching is easy for artisan teachers. It's not even easy for them, but they can do it. For your everyday teachers who work 50, 60 hours a week, it's not enough. You know the teachers I'm talking about, the artisan ones. I mean, it's their lives. They work. My wife's a kindergarten teacher. She was up at 5 o'clock this morning having curriculum for kindergartners. I mean, really? Really? Well, some ducks got born in the class yesterday, and she wore duck earrings, right? It's a kindergarten teacher, right? And she's got a curriculum about ducks. I mean, it's pretty exciting for kindergartners to see the duck hatch out of the egg, right? I mean, we forget, we're so removed from the real learning. I mean, these kids are just absolutely glued to those eggs, right? Now, take a look at these pictures. Bottom left, this is going to be hard. Middle. Those are third graders in Singapore. They're no different than the American kids. And look what they're doing. They're sitting around the science table, and they're talking. And they have the cell phones in their hands. They call them hand phones because they're in their hands. That's what they call them. They call them hand phones. And they're talking. And they're discussing the science. Now, if you look in the back, there's one young lad, and he's doing self-directed learning. In fact, in Singapore, there's 2 fundamental skills that the Ministry of Education says we must support. Self-directed learning, SDL, collaborative learning, COL. They're very big on acronyms in Singapore. Everything's an acronym. MCQ, you can figure that one out. Look at these kids. These kids they're doing collaborative learning in the front, and in the back, he's doing self-directed learning. Their test scores went up in science, and interestingly enough, their test scores went up in English. Why? Because they're talking. They're writing. They're using the language. They're not doing MCQs, multiple choice questions. I mean, that's what they're doing. Now, there are lots of transformations that have gone on in Singapore. Here's a bunch. 5. Whoops. Oh, sorry. 5. It was curriculum, technology, the students, the parents, the teachers, and what really happens is a cultural change. What goes on in the school is different today than it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. There's a cultural change. And, and I'm only going to talk about the pedagogy and the curriculum. Because the other ones, sure, you got to do all those. And those will happen, but there's not enough time today. So let's talk a little bit about curriculum and pedagogy. Every child in Singapore in 3rd grade has a Nokia 710. And it happens to be a Windows Phone 7 phone. It's a little smaller screen than this, about 3.5 inches. Every kid has one of those 24/7, issued, boom, 300 of them. Every kid's got one. And if on the screen, you see those rectangles, those are lessons. That's a lesson. There's a lesson on the plant cycle. And each rectangle is either an activity that the kids are going to do. Build a concept map, build a KWL chart, or it's a resource like a YouTube video or a good website. And what the kids do is they tap on each one of those things and go and do their lesson. Here is the lesson. The top is the goals the teacher set out. Over here on the left is a concept map. All kids build concept maps. What are the key terms of the plants and show their relationships. At the bottom, this is an animation, not a drawing, but it's not doing it now, but it's an animation. It shows the plant growing. Now, it's not just pictures, it's pictures and words, because that's multiple linked representations, MLR. Kids learn when they use MLR, multiple linked representations, multiple media, multiple modalities. Kids learn in different ways. And they see, some kids like it better, they understand it better when they write it. Some kids will draw it, etc., etc. Animation. The picture in the middle is roots of a banyan tree. The child in 3rd grade is walking home from school, and he's learning about plants. He sees a banyan tree, or she sees a banyan tree. Because this is 3.5-inch screen, it's in her pocket. She takes it out of her pocket, takes a picture of the banyan tree, puts it in her assignment, and continues on. School does not end when the bell rings. No. If they have their mobile device, the school continues 24/7. Now, I don't like 10-inch tablets. 10-inch tablets go in your backpack, and School's forgotten. The child is not going to take out a 10-inch tablet out of their backpack and take a picture. That ain't going to happen. But this is in their pocket because it's called ready at hand. It's ready at hand. 7 inches, to me, is the biggest mobile device a child should have. And even these are little, little. I mean, third graders, 7 inches is a big screen. And the 3.5-inch screen on the Nokia, we had over 350 children in third grade. We never heard one complaint that the screen was too small. They're fine. They use the Game Boys. They use the other things. How small those are. That's a small screen. This is a huge screen to them. Then there's over here you could see a chart, and up at top is a KWL chart. They take videos. People always ask me, what do the kids do with a phone in the classroom? This. They do learning. They do education. All these activities, all the tasks that Dewey said the kids are supposed to have are done on one simple device. Now, it's nice to have a desktop and a laptop and a bigger thing. Sure. If you have those equipment and the kids need a bigger screen, fine. Let them go to the back of the room, let them use it, it's great. But this is their primary device. And when they go home, the parents say, what are you doing? You're texting? No, I'm doing my homework. I'm doing my homework. And it takes a while for the parents to make a switch. And the parents' attitude has to change. This is what you can have in your schools. There's no reason why you can't. And I'll tell you this, if you don't do something like this, you're not going to see a change in student achievement. If you use it as a supplement, it's not going to work, right? And we've been doing that for 50 years with computers in classrooms. We've been using them as supplements. Supplements don't move the needle. Now, teacher change. Here is a teacher, Jenny. Jenny's an art teacher, but she can teach science. They hand out a worksheet. They read the answers to the kids. Kids write them down and memorize them. They don't even let the kids find the answers lest there'll be an incorrect answer. Teacher reads the answers to them. And there are 40 kids in a classroom, and you can hear a pin drop because they're very dutiful. That's their culture. And Jenny just, art teacher doesn't really matter. But no, when you do inquiry learning, it changes. It turns out that Jenny, being an art teacher, was really great because she didn't know her science. So the children and her learned the science together. And now she didn't say this quote, but another teacher said, you know, learning is fun now when we do inquiry learning. And the reason was this. She says, I know what the goal is when I come into the classroom. I know what I'm supposed to get. But when I have a conversation with the kids, I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know what questions they're going to ask me. And I have to be a teacher, and I have to steer the conversation towards where I want it to go. That's fun. That's being a professional. So the teachers like this. Now, initially, you'll hear grumbling. There's no question. Of course, teaching... The Singapore teacher said, why should we change? We have the highest test scores in the world. Tell me again why we should change? Because we're not developing the children in the right way. We're doing that. They can test, they can memorize. Well, that's great. But can they have a conversation? No. They can memorize. But it's all about conversation. Now, here is some data. There's a lot of data and a lot of charts, and I won't bore you with it. But let's look at English on the bottom right to start. Traditional English in a Singaporean classroom, worksheets, fill in the blanks, MCQs, matching, right? Draw this picture to that word. What's the grammar thing that works, right? You've seen it. You have it. We have it. Some of us actually buy Singaporean curriculum to use over here, right? I can get it to you cheaper. And they have piles of it now. And if you look at how kids, at the end of the year, they take a test. All the kids in Singapore, just like you, they take a test. And on the oral part, where the kids have to talk to the examiner, our children did 8% better than the traditional kids. Now, by the way, the kind of knowledge the kids have to engage in those conversations is precisely the same kind of knowledge that the kids have when they do MCQs. They have to know about characters, main characters in stories, and what does that mean. But when on an MCQ type test, the traditional kids do better. Sure. The worksheets are the test. The test is the worksheets. Teaching to the test, of course, it's the same thing. And indeed, the traditional kids do better on those tests than the inquiry-oriented children. But give the children an oral exam, give the children an open-ended exam where they have to write full sentences to explain something. Oh, the inquiry kids go off the ceiling. The teachers say they have never seen answers this diverse before. Because usually the kids, even on open-ended, they just memorize the right answer. You know, why does such and such and such a, boom, they give, and every kid gives the same answer. But not in the inquiry class. Now science. Science, over 3 years, you could see the improvement, again, on open-ended questions. Look at the kinds of jumps. Yes, the traditional kids, they improve, sure, it's good. But the difference, the amount of difference that the children who are doing inquiry over the children who are doing traditional. And I'll say it again, on the traditional kids on MCQ type tests will do better than the inquiry oriented. They have all this inert knowledge and they can answer the questions, boom, 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 and they're great at it. But ask a question, why does something happen? How does something happen? These kids can't answer it, they don't know. The inquiry kids can. So now, I'll end. This comment. There's a district in Texas, right on the border, a poor district, McAllen, right on the border of Mexico. They bought 25,000 iPads and iPods, you know, the iTouches, the touches for the younger kids, because they think the older kids the young kids don't need the iPads. How did they pay for this? No raises. They had no raises for years for the teachers. But they bought 25,000. They got named by Forbes as one of the best districts in the world. And the question is, what are the kids doing with them? I mean, have you seen any test scores improve? And it's all about the apps. Find me the 10 best school apps. And, you know, that's what they do. Therese Majou, who's the editor of THE magazine, I'm not picking on iPads, please. I'm not. I love Apple. It's beautiful stuff. It's the best. No, not really. But it's wonderful stuff. But Therese Majou, the editor of the THE Journal, said, stop buying iPads, please. She wrote an editorial. Now, she got a lot of flack for that. But what she's saying is, before you buy it, understand where you're trying to go with it. And we call this tech-driven shallow scaling, where the scaling, yes, you can scale from one grade to the next grade. Just buy them the stuff and put it in. We've seen this movie before. From desktops to laptops to clickers to electronic whiteboards. I mean, we've done it. You IT folks, you've seen it. You principals, you've paid for it. Over and over again. TI graphing calculators, those work. MBL, microcomputer-based labs, where the sensor's right, where the kids move up and back in front of a sensor and they can see that their motion has a graph. Those work. And it's absolutely crystal clear. The data says that graphing calculators and MBL, microcomputer-based labs, increase test scores. Absolutely. Because it isn't shallow scaling. It's deep scaling. And what we're doing in Singapore, we have a Department of Education. But and we have the Common Core now. We've finally agreed on something. It's hard. We have 50 states. They're all different, right? In Singapore, it's a little tiny island. And they say the Ministry of Education has a 5-year plan. Every 5 years they have another one. And so this one is the Master Plan 3. And what they're saying is, if you read it, it says we're going to transform the schools, 2 things, self-directed learning, collaborative learning. And the Nan Chow curriculum is aligned with MP3, and it's education-driven. We call that deep scaling. Because they're doing the technology for a pedagogical reason, not from a technology reason. I'm going to end now with a prediction. This is an old slide. In 2010, Kathy and I predicted that by 2015, every child in every grade in every school in America would be having a mobile device. In 2010, people said, you're nuts. That's never going to happen. It's 2013. It's going to happen. You know this is going to happen, right? Maybe it's not 2015, but it's going to be pretty darn close to 2015 that every child is going to have a mobile device. The only question is there going to be value? Oops, it says, is the technology going to have value? Or are we going to do supplemental again, and you know what's going to happen. Test scores will not improve, student achievement will not go up, student performance will not go up. We've been there before. Or will we say, no, This time, we're going to do it differently. This time, we're going to change the pedagogy of the curriculum. We're going to give the teachers some PD, because darn, they need it, and we're going to give them curriculum, not for paper and pencil, and then say, fix it, make it work for computers. We're going to actually give them curriculum that works for the computers. And that's what we've done in Nanchow. We have not put this on the teacher's back. The principal hired people to work with the teachers to create curriculum. The curriculum developers, there's some for English, there's one for science, and actually there's two for science, one for English, and they work together. Everybody works together. It's a very communal, collaborative community there. And the teachers work with it. Oh, yeah, there's no question. And we use what we call agile curriculum development. Like there's doing agile software development where you develop a little, put it in the classroom, try it out. That didn't work so good. Reflect on it, try it again, fix it. That worked better. That's how people develop software now, for the web, for the mobile. I teach at the University of Michigan, I teach the mobile apps development class. I got 50 engineers every semester, young kids. And they iterate very, very quickly. They do what's called an MVP, a minimally viable product, and then they keep iterating to get it better and better and better. That's how we're doing curriculum development. You can do the same thing. Summer's coming up. It's a perfect time, absolutely perfect time to do this. But the point is, this is going to happen. You know this is going to happen. That's why you're here. You guys are here because you know it's going to happen. What about the folks that aren't here? They're going to just get hit like in the side of the head. All these kids are going to bring these things in, the BYOD, and there's also issues that I won't go into now because of time, but the kids are going to bring them in. It's going to happen. Parents are going to say, why aren't you using the device I just bought my kid? And you're going to say, well, we're going to do that next year. We'll do that next year. Right. And then the charters, I mean, you can see what this is going to happen. And if you don't see what's going to happen, well, you're going to get in the head. But you see it because that's why you're here. Thank you very much.